it says on there. Okay, over here it says this live event will begin in 1.40 minutes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's raining a lot outside.
Yeah. It was bucketing for a bit. Okay. The ad is going. Cool. Boom, we're live. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, look at this.
Let me see. Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah.
It's crisp.
I think we're good to go.
So I already ground the coffee.
That's for me. I'm just imitating. Let's go.
Alrighty, so if anyone is watching, welcome.
Raise a hand.
Welcome to another live stream on the Majestic Bean. What we'll do now is we'll just wait for someone to join and let us know if they can see us and hear us properly. And after that, we'll begin with the show.
Yeah.
The mic is ready as well, I think. Yes. Isn't it better to be pointed this way? No?
Because that's the back of the mic. This is
okay.
where
Okay.
this is where the good stuff comes from.
So we do it like that.
We have 2 attendees. 2 watching. 1 must be us. No. How does that work? 2 watch now. Continue watch. That's the coffee for today.
It's a nice coffee. It's a blend. Still looking better.
It's still lagging. I can't see. Wait. I don't think so.
Wait, we're not there.
Okay.
Because as soon as we start, the sun is coming out.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do we have? Jason, can you hear us and see us well? We're testing still.
That should be better.
Okay, what does he say? Oh, thank you. Cool.
So what are we up to? Jason is here.
Yeah.
Hello, Jason. if you could let us know if you can listen to us and see us properly, that would be great.
We need some feedback.
Yes. So we can begin.
Can I just get out this and get back in to see if it loads?
Okay. So
yeah, there you go.
We can begin.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yep.
There it is. All right. So hello, whoever is here and whoever is gonna watch this in the future. It's Goran and Valeria from the Majestic Bean channel. Today we're doing another live stream. We haven't been live in around 2-3 weeks, maybe something like that. And although last time we went live, we did a live cupping session, right, for the first time. So today we're gonna do something similar, just because we want to see what the fuss is going on with frozen coffee, right? So the thing is, if you haven't heard about freezing your coffee beans, then this might be your first time, right? But if you have already heard about it, then you already know that people are freezing their coffee beans to retain freshness. So basically, the coffee ages until a certain point after being roasted, and then instead of aging even more degrading and going past its peak in terms of flavor and freshness and aromas and all the good stuff, instead of going down, you just lock it in at a certain point, put it in the freezer, and you always enjoy that cup of coffee at its optimum peak freshness and quality.
Nice.
Right? So that sounds very good, because we over here often find ourselves with multiple bags of coffee, right? So I go through around 250 grams of coffee a week. So if I find myself with 3 bags of coffee, at a certain point, my coffee will age past its peak, and it's gonna start going down in terms of flavor and freshness.
Yeah.
Right? So I wanna enjoy my coffee all the time at its peak. So I thought, let's try and see if freezing your coffee actually works. And in order to do that, what we're gonna do today is cup 1 coffee. This is a blend that I'm gonna talk about a bit later. But in this cup over here, we have the frozen coffee. Now, I froze this coffee 5 days after roast. And the reason I chose 5 days is because it was smelling delicious, so I thought, let me lock it in. I also brewed that coffee on that day, and it was also tasting delicious, so it's not like I'm basing the peak of this coffee only on smell. And on this side, we have the same coffee, but it has just been sitting in the bag it came with on my shelf. So it has been aging and degassing. And so this coffee is probably now 12 days after roast, I think. So today is Sunday, and it's actually 10 days post roast. So this coffee is 10 days old. It's been sitting in its bag, and I really want to see if there is gonna be a big difference in terms of flavor, aroma, sweetness, just overall cup quality. And also later on, towards the end of the live stream, I'm gonna brew another batch of the frozen coffee with my V60. So first we're gonna cup it, then I'm gonna brew some coffee, and we're just gonna enjoy basically.
Should we grab the color wheel?
I have the flavor wheel, the SCA flavor wheel
Perfect.
over here, so it's all good.
Cool, perfect.
We'll use it later. But first we're gonna smell the ground coffee, right? And this is a delicious blend roasted by Single O, which is a roastery from Sydney. This one smells a bit flatter. Anyway, it's a blend, lightly roasted, so it's very delicious. And it consists of coffees from Guatemala, Honduras, and Brazil. So it's really, really, really good. And the thing with this blend is the roaster chooses in-season coffees, so the origins that the blend consists of change constantly, but the cup quality is always good. So that's interesting as well.
We got a question. Do you need to defrost the beans before using them?
That's a good question. You don't. You just take it out of the freezer, put it in the grinder, and that's about it.
There you go.
It's the freezing of the coffee basically acts as a lock that you put on a bike, and you lock it in, and that's it. You have the bike over there, for example, and it doesn't move. That's the same with the flavors and the cup quality of the coffee.
That's cool.
It's supposed to act as a lock, so you lock it in at the peak of the flavors and the aromas, and it doesn't go anywhere. So it's interesting.
Perfect.
I'm gonna boil the water here, and we're gonna start the process.
Yay! Hopefully we don't have messages lagging. Oh no, okay. That was quite prompt. Thank you.
Also, we hope everyone is doing well. We're the first week past the Easter holidays.
Yeah. How did you guys celebrate your Easter?
I need the timer.
Wait, here. Want me to start it?
So I have 10 grams of coffee here. I'm gonna pour 160 in there.
There.
And look how it's basically foaming on top, right?
Yeah.
Which is usually an indicator of freshness of the coffee. So I really wonder how this is gonna look like.
Let's see in a second. Okay.
There is a bit noticeable lesser foaming on that one than this one.
Looks like it.
It's interesting. Let's see. So now we're gonna wait 4 minutes, and then we're gonna break the crust, just like we did on the previous live stream when we were cupping a coffee. Back then we were cupping 2 coffees. This time it's gonna be interesting to compare one coffee in 2 different ways, basically. And this is so useful for people like myself or Jason, for example, who find themselves with a lot of coffee at home. So it would be very useful to just, when you brew the coffee, it tastes delicious, you just freeze it, probably freeze it in individual doses, right? So that way you just pull out a dose instead of pulling out the whole bag out of the freezer.
Yeah.
That would be even better. If you have a vacuum sealer, that would be basically the best solution. So, you know, you have those vacuum sealers, you put it in the bag, you put like 20 grams of beans in the bag, you vacuum seal it, throw it in the freezer, and it can last forever. If you don't, then I don't think they're very expensive to get, so they cost around probably $40 US. It's around 50, 60 Australian dollars here, and it's not a lot considering the fact that your cup quality, so your coffee taste, the taste of your coffee will basically be at the optimal all the time, right? So you're not wasting money on coffee, and then it tastes great for like 2-3 days, and then all of a sudden it goes flat.
Yeah. There's a question coming up. Can you freeze in the bag it comes in?
Well, you can try. I tried it, and so far it tastes good, but
how long can that last though?
I'm not sure. You know, this is all like all of this is new to me as well, so it's not like I already know what's going on. I know that in order to do it properly, you'll need a vacuum sealer. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, you could probably go the way that Jason asked with just doing it in the coffee bag, which is what I did, and my coffee so far has tasted great. But I'm not sure if that's the optimal solution, if that's the best thing you could do, right? So who knows? For example, what I did is I squeezed out all the air out of the coffee bag through that little valve the coffee bag has on top. That's the two-way valve where it only allows air to go out but no air to go in.
Okay.
Right? So I squeezed out all the air out of the bag and then just put it in the freezer. And then every time I open it, I would dose coffee and then squeeze out the air again. But I'm gonna get a vacuum sealer at a certain point. It all depends, because I just started freezing beans last week. So I wanna see how big of a difference it's gonna make in my coffee brewing and the cup taste and cup quality. And then if it really makes a huge difference, then I'm gonna just buy a vacuum sealer, like take $60, but then my coffee is gonna taste delicious all the time, which is probably what you want, right? We are almost at 4 minutes.
Someone joined. Who is it? Alaska Vapor. Do you know the name of
Ross?
Yeah, Ross. No, Ross, you're not too late.
Alrighty. This is a very rich coffee. Maybe I'm too close to the mic, but it's very sweet. It's very it has a thick texture in the mouth. To be honest, it's almost like honey. It has that type of sensation on the palate, and that's, I think, due to the Brazilian coffee and the Guatemalan coffee, or at least that's what the roaster says on the little sheet that they provide over here. And there is another sheet that I lost that also names the origins of all of the coffees, and they also talk about, they put a certain, a certain highlight on the Guatemalan coffee that's part of this blend, because it's coming from one of the most famous regions for coffee growing in the world, which is something I can't pronounce. Huehuetenango or something like that. Let me see. What was it? So it's this word. Huehuetenango.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess that's the way it is.
Huehuetenango. If I got it wrong, I apologize. I'm just a bit ignorant, that's all.
Are we ready?
Are we ready?
To try?
I'm gonna skim it first.
Okay.
I'm gonna skim the foam on top. And then we're gonna wait just a bit so it cools down.
Look at that.
Fuck, I got it with one shot.
Almost all of it. Jason says ice cream will get freezer burned over a long time in the fridge. I wonder if coffee beans can get that if you don't use a vacuum sealer.
So far, I completely understand. I also thought that if there was some moisture in the beans, that they would freeze, because obviously water comes out on top basically when you're freezing things, and you get basically like frost on top of the thing you've frozen. But with coffee, because I really squeezed out all the air out of the bag, and I'm being completely honest, I did not notice anything that would impair the coffee so far. So it wasn't like frozen where there is that shell of water around the thing you have frozen, and it's like, and then it starts melting and there it becomes moist, if that makes sense.
Maybe it wasn't a long time since you
I have had beans in there for almost 2 weeks.
Okay.
Another coffee, which is not this one, but it's another coffee that I've had it there for 2 weeks, and it's actually the coffee that Jason sent us. It's a Colombian coffee. It was very delicious. I don't remember the actual name of the coffee. So far it's doing great, but I guess we'll just see. And the coffee might be hot now, but we'll see. So we have, this one is the fresh beans out of the bag, and this one is the frozen coffee.
Is it a trick?
This time it's not. This is a very delicious coffee. Now, what I noticed from that previous bag of coffee that I've had in there for 2 weeks is that it really locks in the flavor of the coffee, and it tasted the same every day that I would take a dose of coffee out of the freezer. So it was very consistent in terms of flavor. Most of the time when you're storing coffee in your coffee bag on room temperature on your shelf, the coffee arrives at a point where it tastes great, then it tastes great for a couple of days, and slowly starts degrading and flattening out. So by the end of day 7, for example, when you're finishing your bag of 250 grams of coffee, it kind of, it's missing something. It's almost like flat. Let's put it that way. It's like when you're drinking Pepsi or Coca-Cola, and you leave the glass of Pepsi outside for like an hour.
Yeah.
It loses the bubbles, right? So it tastes a bit flat.
Yeah.
And I find it the same with coffee as well. So it's very interesting. So far it's working. So, I just gotta spend some money and get that.
I think I need to get myself a glass of water.
It's over there. Me? Over here. Over
Yep.
Do you notice anything so far?
They are different, but I just can't pinpoint at this stage.
Very interesting. We'll see. We'll let Valeria talk first.
Oh no. Okay.
Because that way we're not being biased. Whereas I would say something and then Valeria would just repeat it. Right? So we don't want that.
Okay.
And if it's difficult to notice, I understand, because there is the difference between these two coffees is only basically 5 days. So it's not a huge difference. If I left the coffee out for a month and then froze the other for a month in the freezer, then the difference would be much greater. At least that's the theory.
Okay. I'm just gonna have a little go at this one again. Okay, I personally like both, but if I had to choose between the two, I would go with this one. I'm not sure why. It seems like a cleaner cup of coffee than this one. That's my first impression so far, for some reason.
Okay, fair enough. So before we poured the hot water, there was a slight difference in aroma, right? So this one definitely smelled less pungent. So let's put it that way. But we ground the coffees back to back. So it's not like one was ground and left for a longer period of time to be in the cup than the other one. So they were ground at the same time, they were exposed to air the same amount of time. So if they were the same, they would have smelled the same, which they didn't. So it seems that freezing your coffee kind of locks in those aromas.
The smell.
Now, when I poured the water, this cup of coffee was foaming more than this cup of coffee. When you are pouring water on the coffee and you're getting foaming, that's literally a chemical reaction happening, which is release of CO2 from the beans, right? So the more CO2 the beans have, it's one of two reasons, at least from what I know. It's either the coffee, the more the CO2, the darker the coffee is roasted, or the more the CO2 you have, the fresher the coffee is. When I talk about freshness, I'm talking about the days post-roast. So in theory, what we had here is more foaming than this one. And in theory, the reason for that could be that we locked this coffee in 5 days post-roast, whereas this one is now 10 days post-roast. If that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's a possible reason. I'm not a scientist, I wouldn't know, but from my experience within the coffee industry, it seems that that might be the case. I'm not saying that the more foam there is, the better the coffee will taste. I'm not saying that. But what we're trying to do is test retention of freshness for a longer period of time, which is something you want from your coffee. You want it to be fresher, you want it to be more pungent, you want it to taste good all the time, which is something you probably can't have if you have your beans on room temperature over a prolonged period of time, like 7-10 days, even longer. It all depends on how fast you drink coffee, right? But if you're stuck with like 3-4 bags of coffee, then you literally, you're not gonna get the most out of it. So
in terms of tastes, though?
Let's see, because the coffee is cooling down now.
Oh yeah, no, it is.
What I can tell straight away is it's a very sweet cup of coffee. This is not necessarily coffee that I would go for all the time, because I do enjoy fruitier, lighter, more acidic coffees. Whereas this one has a nice body to it. It's a very round body, very, very silky finish. It has a profound sweetness to it, at least in this cup. Whereas this cup is it's like, if this cup was 10 out of 10, this cup would be like a notch down, like 7, 8 out of 10. It's a very slight difference. It's only 5 days difference, but if I left it for longer, I think it would be more pronounced. We had some time today to do a live stream, so I thought, let's give it a go. But it's just, when you turn the dial just a bit back,
We have some questions coming up. Let's have a look.
Let me see what's going on.
No, that's all. That's all there is.
Oh.
So we read until here.
For the cupping, it's 1:16, just as always. You gotta keep consistent when it comes to brewing coffee. So these cups are a bit smaller than the glasses we used last time. So we used 10 grams of coffee, 160 grams of water, and that's about it. Definitely, it's such an interesting thing where 5 days can make. It's not a huge difference, but it's a slight difference.
That's right.
It's very interesting.
Even the foaming, of course, that was less foamy, but it still was. There still was.
Yeah. Which is something you expect, because at the end of the day, it's not like this coffee is 1 month old.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
This coffee was roasted last Thursday, literally. So it's 9 days, 10 days ago.
Yeah.
9 to 10 days. So, and I actually opened the bag this Tuesday, so 5 days ago. So it hasn't even been in contact with air for more than 5 days. It was just sitting in a vacuum sealed bag from the roastery that sent it to us, right? So it's a very slight difference. I have my kettle in the back boiling, so now I'm gonna brew it with the V60. And we'll just see what happens.
Perfect.
It's interesting. I mean, in my opinion, it's definitely worth trying it for yourself and seeing if you notice a big difference. What I would do though is leave some coffee on room temperature for a longer period of time so you can actually notice the difference.
Yeah, it can be very slight.
Yeah. But imagine having like 4 bags of coffee, right? Last time I had 4 bags of coffee, it took me like almost a month to finish it all. And it was great coffee, but like at day 30, it was like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not great anymore. So now we're gonna make some noise. So smell it.
Wow.
See how nice and pungent it is.
It's funky.
So yeah, hope you're also enjoying the scene that we have over
atmosphere.
here, right? Because it's a bit different than one we had last time, and I feel like it's a big improvement compared to our previous live streams. But also, if you've noticed our latest videos, they look a kind of crisper and different to before. So I really hope you guys are enjoying this type of scene compared to the previous ones.
Let us know.
Or just let us know what you think.
Okay, so Jason says the lighting in the video quality is excellent.
And the thing is, Jason, we're actually recording with our second camera. So when we finish the live stream, we're gonna upload the better quality video and it's gonna be crisp as fuck.
Yes.
So we are live streaming on the DSLR and we are filming with the mirrorless Canon M3.
That's why I don't know where to look.
It's so crisp on the M3, it's unbelievable. It's gonna be full HD. It's gonna be lit. Water is just off the boil, so we'll give it a couple of seconds.
In the meantime, we'll just
This is
checking
so
up on
good.
these bad boys.
Bad boys.
Look, so far, I still like this first cup.
Just be careful. I'm gonna make a V60 because we haven't had a lot of coffee today. But I had a lot of coffee yesterday because I had a couple of friends over. It was Rob from How To Coffee and Liam from Basic Barista. They both have YouTube channels, so check them out. It's How To Coffee for Rob, and Liam's channel is called Basic Barista. So check them out. They came over yesterday for some coffee. We had some fun. We enjoyed some delicious coffee as well, and you know, it was cool. It's cool, very cool to catch up with coffee people, basically. You know. So yeah. go.
Perfect.
If you haven't checked out our how to make a V60 video, you can do that as well, in case you're wondering what's going on.
It's so nice when it gets foamy.
Yeah, that's a big indicator of freshness. There we go. We're also having a new video go live tomorrow morning, so tune in for that one. I think it's gonna be interesting.
As always.
You can see the Gaja Classic in the background, sitting patiently.
Waiting to be used. Oh. Perfect. What do we have here? Yeah, that's true. There's nothing better than great company and excellent coffee. Words of wisdom.
That's it.
And we're waiting.
It's fun to have friends that are also into good coffee, because then you start exchanging coffee, you learn about new equipment. You know, for example, yesterday I had the chance to use a Comandante hand grinder for the first time.
Oh yeah?
And for those who don't know what that is, it's basically the Ferrari of grinders when it comes to hand grinders. So it's German built, German engineered, so no manufacturing done anywhere outside of Germany. So it's basically a factory. This is such a good grinder, it's unbelievable. I can't describe. Like, we also tried the same coffee two ways. I ground one coffee and made a V60 with the Encore, and then I made the same coffee but ground the coffee with the Comandante, and the cup quality is so noticeably different and better that, you know, I was just amazed at how good it was. And the thing is though, it costs a lot of money. So the Comandante cost around 500 Australian dollars, which is probably around 400 USD for a hand grinder, right?
That's
so, you know, but in my opinion, it's worth every penny or every cent.
Every penny.
Pennies are American. Let me just put the kettle away. There we go.
Okay.
Get the cups.
Yeah. Thanks, Ross. He said, very nice new visual quality. Guys, kudos.
Thank you.
A nice swirl over there.
I wonder if you can actually hear the pour with the microphone, because it's so close to the microphone.
Must be nice.
We're doing a little coffee ASMR here. So yeah, now the coffee is probably has cooled down quite a bit, right?
Yeah, it has. And so far, I like both. But I still have that preference
cool down a bit.
For some
it's
reason.
It's such a good coffee. It's so different to what you would usually have.
It is.
You know, it's not that fruity, it's not that acidic, but it's so sweet. It has a very nice texture. I was actually talking to Jason yesterday about a Brazilian coffee he tried, and he said that it's so different to what he usually has. And I totally agree. You know, it's good to sometimes mix it up a bit, change a bit, you know, and deviate for what you normally have. And most of the time, if you're having fruity, acidic coffees, then definitely go for a coffee that is from Brazil, or at least if it's a blend, it has a Brazilian coffee is a component of that blend, because Brazilian coffees add a bit of body, a bit of chocolatey sweetness and bitterness, and they definitely have a very nice silky texture to them as well.
Beautiful. Do you think that cup is like slightly more pungent than this one in taste? Because that's what I'm feeling.
No, quite the opposite. This one definitely feels a bit flatter and just like it's missing something. You know, it's like, as I said, it's like you have the dial on 10 and then you slightly bring it down a bit to 8. You know, if I left this coffee for another 5-10 days, then the difference will be
it's gonna
huge.
get like obvious.
Because when I was making a V60, for example, with a 30-day-old coffee, first of all, the brewing time and the drawdown of the V60 was much faster, because obviously the coffee is aging and it's breaking down on a cellular level, right? So the older it is, the faster it's gonna draw down and the more brittle it becomes. That's the first thing. And then it just, for example, when I was blooming the coffee, which is the first phase of the pour over, the blooming phase, there was no foam. It was flat. It was watery, you know. Whereas you saw how it's foaming when I was pouring the water in this cup, and also when I was making the V60 as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So that's some cool stuff as well.
Very, very interesting. Time to try.
It's
still very hot.
No, it's not hot.
No?
It just, for some reason, it's as silky. It kind of reminds me at the moment, when I took the first sip, it kind of reminds me of that coconut milk silkiness. If you've tried coconut cream, coconut milk on its own, it has that silkiness that coats your tongue evenly. And it's not, it's a different type of sweetness. It's not sweet like sugar, but it's like a dialed down sweetness.
Wow, you're very good in describing stuff. But now that I think about it,
it's interesting. It's interesting. Or if you have ever tried warm water and honey, for example.
True.
You know, because honey on its own, it's thick, it's rich, and it has that sweetness, that pleasant sweetness, right? Whereas here, what we have is a dialed down honey sweetness, something that when you mix honey with warm water and you drink it, it's so pleasant. It's just a light coating on top of your tongue, then it goes down on the sides and underneath, and it lingers for a minute.
Wow.
She's having her eyes watering now.
Poetry.
Oh, yeah. She probably didn't know I have this poetic side of me.
Yeah, it kind of stands out when you talk about coffee. It's just like
delicious stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This blend can actually, in all honesty, they sell this blend as an espresso blend, right? But sometimes, not always, you can find espresso blends that actually work very well as brewed with a pour over brewing method or with any other method other than espresso. And this blend is definitely one of those blends because it's a very light roasted coffee. You know, it's not one of those dark roasted coffee where it gets a bit oily. It gets a bit charred, so it's only for espresso, you know.
You know what we're talking about, right?
So this is some good stuff. So anyway, let me see what's going on. Oof.
We're a bit behind.
This is some overpriced.
Maybe you can read them out loud. Oh,
so Ross was talking about a hand grinder called the IZ Presso. He's saying that the Comandante is overpriced I wouldn't say, look, Ross, I wouldn't say it's overpriced. I would just say it's expensive. Overpriced means it delivers less than what you pay for. And believe me, I don't know if you've used a Comandante. I used it yesterday for the first time, and it's really a premium product. I have used other hand grinders previously, but nothing even comes close to this grinder. And it's such a huge difference in the cup. You can taste that it has been ground with a different grinder. And that's just the reason for that you can taste that difference is because the Comandante does not produce a ground coffee with a lot of variation in coffee particles. Most grinders have a lot of fines and a lot of boulders and things in between, where the Comandante seems to grind much more even across the board. So you're not getting a lot of fines and you're not getting a lot of boulders. And it was so weird because when the coffee ended brewing and the drawdown finished, there was such a huge difference in how the coffee bed looked with the Comandante grinder compared to the Barista Encore, which I use all the time for my filter brewing needs. But the the Encore costs 220 Australian dollars, and then you have the Comandante, which is more than 2 times more expensive. I was actually thinking of getting a Comandante, but I thought I'm not going to spend my money on things that I don't really need. But as soon as I get a chance, and as soon as I need a new grinder for my filter brewing needs,
that would be a big jump in quality.
I'm gonna cash out. Spend that stimulus check. Spend the steamy. So yeah,
it's beautiful.
And there are also probably cheaper alternatives. I'm not sure if they would come closer, but the cheap alternatives might be better value for money. Okay, they might not be as good as the Comandante, but they'll be so much cheaper and still produce a nice cup of coffee that it's gonna be worth buying them.
Still deliver.
That's just my opinion. Every other opinion is allowed as well, because we live in a free country.
Thank God.
And yeah, let me see. What's Luke saying? He is using a sealer and loves having backup beans this way.
That's good.
I agree, Luke. God bless. Are you using a vacuum sealer though? Just checking. Because if you are, then you are doing the right thing. You can also let us know if you are freezing the whole bag of coffee, or you are dosing individual doses of coffee. So you just take out a little bag of coffee, cut it, grind it, and brew yourself a nice coffee. So there are 2 ways of doing that. I think it's more convenient to dose individual bags of coffee for every time you're making a pour over, for example. But the only drawback I see from that is you'll be wasting a lot of plastic bags, to be honest, right?
That's also a thing to consider.
The thing is, I don't know if you can reuse vacuum those bags that you're using for vacuum sealing, because if you think about it, there is no what's it called? There is no Ziploc or anything. So it's basically you seal it with heat and then you draw out the air. So when you cut it, it seems that you can't use it again, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Because you're cutting off a piece of it. So that's the only thing. Like, I really try not to be wasteful, especially when it comes to, like, just plastic and bullshit. You kind of want to be eco-friendly as much as you can, So, but I think we'll see. I don't know. A friend of mine has a vacuum sealer, so what I might do is first use his, compare the vacuum sealed bags with the coffee, with the bag of coffee that I just draw out the air and then put it in the freezer. Compare the two. If there is a huge difference, then I'll buy a vacuum sealer. If not, then I think I'll just do it the way I'm doing it because of environmental reasons. Because like if I drink 2 pour-overs a day, that's gonna be 2 bags a day, so it's gonna be almost 720 little bags a year that you just buy, seal, cut and throw away. That's a bit, it's like every time you use a sandwich bag, you just throw it away, which most people do, but we don't do that anymore, right? So I don't know, it's just it's kind of conflicting with my head, because later, I mean, for almost probably 2-3 years now, we really try to avoid being wasteful for no reason, like it's not like we are some hermits or some like militaristic eco-friendly people. We're not that, but we try to be conscious about some decisions that we make. Like we really don't buy things that we don't need anymore, right? I always try to fix things when I can fix them, instead of just throwing them away and buying a new thing and so on. So yeah, I'm diving deep into things that don't really matter for coffee, but yeah. Okay, so Ross was saying that he has watched reviews about those other grinders, and I'm not. Yeah, you might be right, man. Like I haven't used that specific grinder, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, fair enough. As long as it's cheaper and it does the same job, or even a bit slightly worse, but it's much cheaper. It's worth giving it a go. And then Luke is using a vacuum sealer and freeze it in 250-gram batches. But he also has a 250-gram vacuum storage pot as well.
Right.
Otherwise you can store it properly when it freezes. Okay. So there might be a way to circumnavigate the issue of being very wasteful. We'll give it we'll see. But the important thing is freezing your coffee beans might be useful for you. If you find yourself with a lot of coffee at home that it's not gonna be used as soon as possible, basically. So if you're watching this live stream now or later on when we upload it, and you want to know what did we conclude from this video, this is it. If you have a lot of coffee at home, you have a lot of different bags, might be good to freeze it. It's gonna taste good all the time. If you buy 1 bag at a time, let's say the 250-gram bag of coffee at a time, you start, you never change until you finish it, and you finish it within like 5, 6, 7 days, then I don't know. I wouldn't freeze my beans if I was doing that, because it's just too big of a hustle to do that. In 7 days, the coffee is not gonna degrade drastically. That it's not gonna taste good. Which is the proof is over here. It's slightly different, but it's not like this is a terrible cup of coffee. It's very flat. It's not good. It's just slightly worse. So those 5 days of difference made a slightly different bag of a cup of coffee. Yeah. So if you think about it, if you have the chance to freeze it. If not, you don't have to.
We're in a free country.
That's it. So I think we're gonna call it a day for the day. It's been almost an hour. There we go. Almost an hour. For everyone who joined us live today, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you spending your free time with us, enjoying some coffee. Hopefully you had some coffee while you were watching this as well.
I had too much. I'm getting jittery.
That way you don't feel lonely and you can actually enjoy a cup of coffee with us.
Yeah, it's true.
It's always a pleasure doing these live streams every now and then, because we get a chance check up with you guys, you know, just see what's going on, how you doing, you see how we're doing, instead of just watching the videos we post every Monday. And all the links that I talk about all the time, the PayPal link, if you want to buy us a coffee, obviously it's in the description below. We have all the affiliate links in the description below as well. You know, the usual stuff that I always talk about in almost every video, you know, the usual stuff. We appreciate your support as always. It means a lot to us.
It does.
And we're very grateful. We just hit 2,500 subscribers on YouTube yesterday, I think. And it's amazing, you see. It's almost a year since we started the channel, you know.
Not even, because it's gonna be in 3 months. Maybe.
Okay, yeah. So it's 9 months, right? So it's cool, man. Like it's so cool to see
starting
something
from zero.
You know, you start from 0 to 2.5. You know, some channels grow faster, some channels grow slower, but it's all about the process, and we really enjoy the process of this. So that's my take on it.
Yeah.
And things are changing as we go, things are improving as we go as well. You know, we always try, like, my brain is always working, you know. It's always interesting to think of new ideas, to come out with new things. Soon we're gonna come out with something interesting. I don't know how well it's gonna be what's it called, recepted from the people who follow us and watch our videos. We'll see. But I had a very cool idea that I'm very excited about, and it's basically a product. Let's put it that way. It's gonna be a product with the Majestic Bean channel logo on it. So it's gonna be interesting. I'll just leave it there. Okay, I'll leave it there. It's gonna be soon, probably in the next month or 2, depending how we go. We'll have some prototypes, and that's about it. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you in tomorrow's video and on a live stream in probably 2 to 4 weeks, depending how much time we have. So I'm gonna turn it off now.
Thank you so much.
Hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you later.